Okay, on the previous slide we learned about ionic bonds. Now we're going to learn about covalent bonds. So the directions say use the atom to make 5 complete compounds. We need to know what covalent bonds are made between. So we see hydrogen and oxygen. We know that hydrogen, yes, it's in group 1 with the metals, but it is not a metal, it's a gas. It's in group 1 because of its valence electrons, but it's a gas. So if you see any of your nonmetals, which are to the right of the stair step, or sometimes some metalloids, and hydrogen bonded together, it is a covalent bond. What is not in a covalent bond? Metals. Metals are never in covalent bonds. So covalent bonds are between nonmetals and metalloids sometimes. So the first thing we see is hydrogen and oxygen, and they have a picture of it right here. And you have hydrogen bonded to oxygen. You have 2 hydrogens, this is why we got H2, and 1 O. So H2O. Now, remember we said covalent bonds are just between nonmetals. They are all alike. Nonmetals are like nonmetals. So since they are all alike, they don't transfer their electrons, they share them. Just like you share things with people who are more like you, they share things with covalent bonds because they are all the same type of element. They're all nonmetals. So covalent bonds occur between nonmetals and nonmetals, and they share their electrons. So let's do some examples. Let's say we can pick any of these. We're going to pick 5 of them to do. So I'm going to try to do them small, so just stay up with me. So we're going to do, let's see. Okay, so I've gone ahead and made some models. What I want you to do is I want you to pause the video right here and make your models look exactly like this. All you have to do is drag them to the right place. Okay, so I want to name my first one. We've already got hydrogen and oxygen, and we have H2O because we have 2 H's, H2, 1 O, just plain old O. So let's do this one first. We've got 2 different nonmetals here. We know they're both nonmetals because fluorine and oxygen, both to the right of the stair step. So I go fluorine, don't worry about your spelling, oxygen, and now I need to write out my compound. Okay, so my compound would be, I have 2 F's, so I'd write F2, 1 O, just capital O. Now notice my 2 is not small, that's just because of the way Google Docs works, so just don't worry about it. Just write yours just like that. Okay, I'm going to come down to this one right here. We have 2 elements here. We have carbon and oxygen, so I'm going to write carbon and oxygen. Okay, now let's write the formula. We have 1 carbon, so I'm just going to write the letter C. We have 2 oxygen, so I'm going to write O2. Okay, now let's do this one, CH4. We've got carbon, and we've got hydrogen. So we've got 1 C, so I'm going to write capital C, and then we've got 3 H's, so I'm going to write H3. Okay, now let's look at this one. We've got the letter N, which is nitrogen. You're going to need to look at your periodic table for this. Nitrogen. And we've got the letter H, hydrogen. Now let's do our formula. We've got 1 N, so I'm just going to write letter N. And then we've got 3 H's, so H3. Okay, now the 5th one right here, we've got our chlorine and fluorine. So I'm going to write chlorine and fluorine. I spelled that wrong. It's okay. And we're going to write, there's just 1 of each, so we're going to write F, C, L. Okay? And that's it for your naming covalent bonds. Make sure yours looks exactly like this.